My boyfriend slept with my sister. I invited them to therapy and let them confess everything on camera while I said nothing. I never thought the people I loved most would be the ones to make me question everything. For 3 years, Derek was my person, not in a fairy tale, soulmate kind of way, but in the real, practical sense. We lived together in a little apartment in downtown Chicago. We cooked on Sunday nights. We argued about laundry. We talked about maybe getting a dog, maybe buying a house. He wasn't perfect, but I trusted him. And Lily, my younger sister, was my heart. We didn't always get along growing up, but I was the one who helped her move into her dorm. I was the one who sent her money when she couldn't pay rent. I was the one who defended her when she dropped out of grad school and our parents flipped. I didn't just love her, I protected her. When I introduced her to Derek, I didn't think twice. It was Thanksgiving. She'd flown in from Arizona and stayed with us for the long weekend. I was so proud of the life I'd built, my job, my boyfriend, my independence, and I wanted her to see it, to feel inspired. She and Derek got along well, maybe too well. They laughed a lot, talked about music, movies, joked like they'd known each other forever. But I brushed it off. She was friendly. He was social. I wasn't going to be one of those insecure women who reads into every glance. Over the next year, Lily visited twice more, once for my birthday, once just because she needed a change of scenery. She always stayed with us, slept on the couch, brought wine, helped with dishes. Derek was always happy to see her. And again, I told myself, this is what family is supposed to feel like. Comfortable, easy. But then the small things started piling up. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way he'd smile at his phone and put it away when I walked in. The time I caught them whispering in the kitchen at midnight and they both froze like kids with their hands in the cookie jar. And still, I let it go. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to confront either of them without proof. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was tired, overthinking, jealous even. How pathetic is that, jealous of your own sister? Then came the hoodie. After her last visit, I was tidying up the guest blanket for laundry day when I noticed it. Derek's gray hoodie, the one he wore almost every day, folded at the bottom of her suitcase. Not on top. Buried, like it was never meant to be found. I didn't say anything, just placed it quietly back on the bed and zipped her suitcase shut. She was already on her way to the airport. Derek was still asleep. That night, I laid next to him in bed, pretending everything was fine. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if he noticed how still I was. If he could feel the tension in my body. He turned away, like always. He fell asleep in minutes. I didn't sleep at all. It wasn't just a hoodie, it was a thread, and when I pulled it, the whole damn sweater started to come apart. I remembered how he'd told me Lily was cool and refreshing after we'd argued one night. I remembered how she once joked about him being the hotter Hemsworth. I remembered the way she changed the subject whenever I brought up Derek in phone calls. Still, I had no hard proof, nothing that could be labeled as betrayal in black and white. But deep down, I knew they did something. Maybe not everything, maybe not sex. Maybe it was just texts, flirting, kisses, who knows, but I knew. And I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to play the role of the betrayed woman who tears through her partner's phone and confronts him at dinner. I was going to give them a chance to tell me the truth, in their own words, in a room where they felt safe, in a space that looked like healing, but would actually become their mirror. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't throw things. I made an appointment. Not with a real therapist, of course. That would have been too clinical, too risky. I needed control. I needed a setting where I pulled the strings, where every pause, every glance, every twitch could be captured and dissected later. So I booked a space. A small Airbnb listed as a creative counseling loft, equipped with home automation and discreet high-res security cameras. I wasn't just setting a trap. I was designing a stage. Then I called Morgan. She's a graduate student in psychology and a longtime friend who once did improv for 3 years. The perfect mix of sharp instinct and emotional control. I told her everything about Derek, about Lily, about the hoodie in her suitcase and the tension that had started curling around the corners of my life like smoke. Morgan didn't interrupt. She didn't try to play devil's advocate. When I finished, she just said, "How deep do you want them to bury themselves?" We spent 2 days outlining the session. It wouldn't be an ambush, no shouting, no accusations. It would feel like healing. That's what would make it hurt more. We mapped out a loose script, open-ended questions, prompts around trust and vulnerability, silent stretches designed to trigger discomfort. I invited Derek first. "I've been feeling disconnected," I told him. "I think we need to talk, with someone neutral." He hesitated, but not for long. "Yeah," he said. "That might help." Then I texted Lily. "I'm trying something," I wrote. "Therapy, for me. But I want you to be part of it, just this once. You and Derek are both important to me, and I feel like something's off between the three of us." There was a longer pause before her reply. Then, "If it helps you, I'll be there." They didn't suspect a thing. Sunday afternoon arrived like a slow tide. I didn't sleep the night before. I didn't eat that morning. I sat on the edge of the tub, staring at my own reflection like it belonged to someone else. I wore no makeup, neutral colors, loose hair. I wanted to look tired, open, not like a woman plotting the controlled demolition of 2 people she once adored. Morgan arrived early and set up the room. Tissues on the coffee table, a white noise app humming softly in the background. 3 identical chairs in a semicircle. The cameras were live. The air felt thin. Derek arrived first, wearing his gym hoodie and that fake calm he uses when he doesn't know what the hell is happening. Lily came 10 minutes later in a soft blue sweater, face washed clean, eyes wary but polite. They didn't hug, they didn't sit together. Morgan greeted them with a warm smile. She introduced herself as a facilitator and made it clear this wasn't clinical, just conversational. "We're here to listen," she said, "to honor discomfort and to be curious about tension." Derek nodded like he understood. Lily stayed quiet. "I said nothing," Morgan began. "She asked us to go around and name something we've been feeling lately in this triangle. Me, Derek, and Lily." I led the way, voice quiet. Like I'm being lied to politely. Derek blinked. Lily flinched. Morgan asked if anyone felt guilt in this relationship. Derek coughed, said work had been a lot, and that he hadn't been fully present. Lily said nothing, so Morgan asked again. "Have you ever withheld something important from Rachel? Not because you wanted to hurt her, but because you were afraid of what it might change?" Lily looked up, startled. Then she shook her head too fast. Nothing like that." Derek muttered, "That's a loaded question." "Truth usually is," Morgan replied. The air grew heavier. I watched every micro-expression. Lily tapping her fingers against her thigh. Derek looking anywhere but at me. Every inch of their bodies was screaming, even if their mouths weren't. Morgan asked them to speak directly to each other. "Lily," she said, "can you tell Derek what you believe his role is in your life right now?" Lily fumbled for words. "He's Rachel's partner, and, well, he's a friend." Derek didn't even look at her. He was staring at the carpet, lips pressed so tight they'd gone white. Morgan turned to me. "Rachel, what's something you're afraid is true, but can't prove?" I looked them both in the eye. That the 2 people I love most chose each other, while pretending to still choose me. Silence. No denial, no outrage. Just stillness. A hollow kind of stillness. Morgan let the silence stretch. She was good at that, letting people sit in the discomfort until they broke their own armor. Then she asked the final question of the day. "If Rachel already knows what happened, what would you want her to understand, right part?" Derek blinked like he'd been slapped. Lily turned red. I could see it in real time, the calculation behind their eyes. How much does she know? How much do we admit? What's safer, silence or confession? They said nothing, which told me everything, and I smiled. Not visibly, not outwardly, but somewhere deep inside I smiled. Because the trap wasn't closing, it had already closed. You can only stretch silence for so long before it starts to scream. They didn't answer Morgan's question. If Rachel already knows what happened, what would you want her to understand? Not a word. Just more darting eyes, clenched jaws, fingers tapping against thighs like trapped metronomes. Morgan didn't push. She didn't need to. She simply nodded, jotted something meaningless in her notebook, and let the tension sit in the center of the room like smoke in still air. And that's when it happened. Derek shifted in his seat. Not a big movement, just a lean forward, elbows on knees, hands rubbing together. Then, without lifting his eyes, he said, "It wasn't supposed to mean anything." He realized it a second too late. Morgan didn't react. I didn't blink. Lily's head whipped toward him so fast you could almost hear her neck snap. "Derek," she hissed, voice sharp and low. "What are you doing?" He looked at her like she'd betrayed him. Like she was the one who said too much. The look of someone trying to rewind time with their eyes. "Rachel, stay quiet," I told myself. "Let them talk." Morgan leaned in slightly, calm as ever. "Derek, can you say more about that?" He shook his head. It was just one time, okay? It wasn't a thing." Lily's hands flew up. "Seriously? You're the one who said we shouldn't tell her." "Yeah, because we promised we wouldn't do it again." Again, that word hit harder than a slap. I felt it ripple through my chest like a metal rod jammed into the heart of my spine. Not once. Again. Morgan didn't need to say a word. Neither did I. They were unraveling all by themselves. "I told you," Derek said, still not looking at me. "It was a mistake. We were drunk. It just happened." Lily was crying now, real tears, angry tears. Her mascara clung to the corners of her eyes like guilt that refused to let go. "You told me you meant it," she spat. "You said she didn't make you feel wanted anymore. That I did." I let out a soft breath, almost a laugh. Derek finally looked at me, like maybe he'd forgotten I was in the room. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said, voice shaking just enough to be disgusting. "I didn't plan it. It was confusing." "Confusing?" I turned to Lily. "Did you borrow my hoodie before or after the first time?" I asked. She froze. Derek turned pale. Morgan sat back, perfectly neutral. "No answer?" I asked. "Okay, I'll help you remember." I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and tapped the screen twice. A clipped audio recording filled the room, muffled voices, familiar tones. It was from my living room 2 weeks ago. A conversation between Derek and Lily. Lily, she was supposed to be out for another hour. Derek, relax, just act normal. Lily, do you think she suspects? Derek, only if you keep panicking. It wasn't long, but it was enough. They both stared at the phone like it might explode. I turned on the smart home mic after the hoodie, I said. Just in case. Lily covered her mouth. Derek stood up. "I'm not doing this," he said, shaking his head. "This is insane." "No," I said. "This is a controlled environment. You're free to leave at any time." He walked out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even try. Lily stayed seated, sobbing quietly. "I didn't mean to fall for him," she whispered. "I didn't mean to be born before you," I replied. But I still did. Morgan closed her notebook. Session over. I stood, took my phone, looked at Lily one last time. "You don't have to worry," I said. "I'm not sending this to Mom and Dad." That made her cry harder, but I was already walking out. I didn't need a final word. I'd already said everything I needed to. In silence. I never sent the recordings to anyone. I didn't need to. They burned themselves just fine. The morning after the therapy session, Derek tried to call. Then he texted. Then he emailed. 3 paragraphs about regret, confusion, and wanting closure. I read none of it. Just watched the bubbles appear, disappear, and come back again like a drowning man trying to shout through a glass wall. Lily went quiet for 2 days. Then came the Instagram post. A black and white photo of her looking out a window, captioned, "Some mistakes hurt more than others." The comments started to pour in. Friends asking what happened. Mutuals speculating. One of her exes even replied, "Guess karma came quick." I didn't comment, didn't like it, Didn't send it to anyone, but I saw it and I smiled. Derek disappeared from socials completely. I assume he deleted everything. Or maybe Lily blocked him. I don't know. I don't care. What I do know is that people started asking questions. Friends, family, our old brunch group. People who'd seen us together, who'd known us as Rachel and Derek. The stable couple, the ones you could count on to bring wine and not drama. I didn't offer details. When someone asked where Derek was, I just said, "Not here." When someone asked why I unfollowed Lily, I said, "Boundaries." No drama, no tea, just silence. And it worked. Because silence, when you've done something shameful, is louder than shouting. It forces people to fill in the blanks. And they almost always imagine something worse than the truth. I moved out 2 weeks later, found a smaller apartment closer to work, threw out the bed, sold the couch, kept the plants, repainted the walls. I didn't cry, not even when I packed the drawer where Derek kept his stupid gym socks. Not even when I found the photo strip from our first vacation together tucked in the back of my jewelry box. Grief had already done its job. This was just cleanup. One afternoon, my mom called. She asked why Lily hadn't returned her messages. I said, "We're taking space." She hesitated. "Did something happen?" "Yes," I said. "But I'm not asking you to pick a side. I'm just asking you to let it be." And for once, she didn't push. Sometimes survival isn't loud. It's not a speech or a dramatic confrontation in the rain. Sometimes survival is quiet, dull, methodical. It looks like taking back your mornings, like deleting photos, like removing a name from your emergency contact list. Sometimes it's just knowing you could have destroyed someone and choosing not to, because you know they're already doing it to themselves. Lily sent me a letter a month later, handwritten, 5 pages long, apologies, explanations, vague language about boundaries crossed and feelings misunderstood. I didn't read the whole thing. I tore it up and dropped it in the trash, not out of anger, but because some words are for the writer, not the reader, and I'm not her audience anymore. Morgan and I still grab coffee sometimes. She always asks if I'd do it the same way again. And I always say yes, because they expected fire. And instead, I handed them a mirror. They lit their own match. I just stood back and let them burn.